Hello again. Welcome to another edition of Media Watch. I'm your co-host, Eric Tait.
I'm Raymond Peterson.
I'm Bob Anthony.
And this is being brought to you by the good graces of EBT Educational Productions, Zoom, and Manhattan Neighborhood Network. And it'll air on Manhattan Neighborhood Network at some point in the next couple of weeks, we hope. But you'll catch us on YouTube and or LinkedIn, and we'll let you know. But we're taping the Wednesday before next Monday, possible airing on MNN, but we'll have it up on YouTube. The fallout from the Nashville assault weapons mass killings, I'm sure will still be in the news when we air. And there's been a lot of political brouhaha because a couple of GOP state and federal legislators said there's nothing we can do about guns and gun control. And we shouldn't even talk about it now because we're politicizing. We just need to think of the family. And then somebody else came up, we're hoping for thoughts and prayers. As one of the residents of Nashville near the school said, I'm tired of people calling for thoughts and prayers. So what caught your eye about the first fallout, the big blowout in fighting politically, guys?
Go ahead, Ray.
I was just going to say, they're coming up with just outrageous solutions instead of real plans to just ban guns. Like Nikki Haley said, put metal detectors at school doors. That was her solution. So they're coming up with like band-aids, but nobody's saying, let's just ban guns. Let's just get rid of them. Nobody has come up with that so far, except for a few Republicans, but those bills never get passed.
No Republicans.
We used to have restrictions. We used to have these restrictions.
Raymond, no Republican has come up with any legislation to ban guns.
No. Did I say Republican? I'm sorry, I misspoke.
Okay.
I absolutely misspoke.
Bob, let's talk about that Republican call out.
No, Republicans are coming up with these stopgap measures that don't really mean anything at all. I mean, gun metal detectors in schools, side doors, as you brought up before. Somebody complained about the real problem is side doors in the school. Somebody sneaks in a side door. This is not legislation. This is not stopping the problem. The problem is guns being out on the street, being in hands of teenagers and people who are mentally disabled in one way or another. And that's the solution. That's the real solution. And no one's coming up with it.
Yeah, the guns in this case were legally bought. So, under the current rules, there wasn't an issue with getting a hold of them. And the person who broke in.
That's my point. There's never a problem with getting hold of guns. Anybody that wants one can get a gun. It's that's the truth. That's the plain, simple truth. If you want a gun bad enough, you can get one.
So the political fallout, Bob, talk to me about the Democrats, Republicans. I mean, it was a high profile back and forth.
I mean, it's what you would have expected. You have the Republicans saying the same thing. Well, this is not the time to inject politics into this. This is not the time to bring. This is the time for the families. Let's wait and let them settle down a bit.
That's the point. Politics, the hell with politics. We're talking about people's lives.
Agreed. Look, I mean, look at the whole fact that 3 9-year-olds can't go to school without worrying about coming home. I mean, it's just astounding that that talk about a soft target. That's the softest of targets. And this person decided to take the automatic weapons into the school. Clearly, a person who wasn't balanced. I don't care what the manifesto might have said, and they haven't released it, but it's a horrible case, and it's a case where an assault weapon ban would have or limitation could have helped things. They, at least that type of gun wouldn't have been available, would have been, you know, it would have been bad just the same.
Interestingly enough, Bob, about the assault weapons ban, Joe Biden has come out a number of occasions and said, look, we need to ban these weapons. He said we had the ban in from 1994 to 2004.
Yep.
Deaths went down. We did a piece on Media Watch. We've done it more than once about the fact that, yeah, before the ban expired, the death toll went down, mass shooting went down the whole, but we already know the fact that. And the fact that these Republican politicians would actually stand up in front of the public and say, there's no more we can do. There's nothing we can do about guns. If people want to use them, kill them, we can't stop them. We don't need more law. I mean, the White House press secretary actually got just off. I don't know whether she was angry or whether she was sick and tired, but she called out the Republicans and said, they will not come to the table to help us pass these laws that we need to pass. And of course, she got pushback from other Republicans elected officials. One of those, I forget, Tom Cotton or somebody similar, who just does not want to be called out. Just like in the halls of Congress, they were saying, as you said, Bob, this is not the time for politicized. No, it's not. It's the time to pass the goddamn assault weapons ban, period. We're going to move off the topic. I commend the cops for moving as fast as they did. They stopped more carnage from happening. Thank goodness they responded. Fortunately, not all police departments respond as well, and not all police departments get praise for their actions. And that's my segue to get us to some of the nefarious police stories that came in my inbox, your inbox, that we've been sharing. What's the most egregious of them? Not historically, but lately. Did you guys open the link on the Mississippi Police Department that's been called on the carpet for investigation because they're known for their unnecessary roughness and undue use of force in arresting Black and brown people? The story about this particular, what Mississippi town was that? Anybody got that link handy? These guys actually arrested these two Black men, put their weapons in their mouths, and actually one guy got shot and had a broken jaw. I'm surprised he survived that kind of an assault.
Yeah. Did you have that story, Ray? Quite frankly, I started to read it, truthfully, Eric. And once I got to the point where the gun was fired in his mouth and that he needed his tongue sewed together, I literally wasn't in the mood to read the rest of the story.
It is truly horrendous. Yeah. And matter of fact, we don't, rather than dig into it, it's part of a litany of bad policing that we've been faced with. Misidentification, unnecessary roughness. There was a story recently right here in New York where the young man who was falsely accused of rape, I think the Siebold case that ended up in a book, bestseller book, whatever. Attorney General James decided they're going to settle a suit and pay this young man $5 million. And his lawyer said, fine, that doesn't really get to the heart of what happened to him. I believe they've got a new civil suit that's going to deal with whatever else he feels he's entitled to for having his life disrupted and his career ruined and the whole bit. I should call his name, but the last name of the victim was Siebold, Siebold, and she wrote a best-selling book, and then they turned it into a movie. But his life was wrecked. So
what was the name of the movie? You had just mentioned it a second ago.
I believe it might have been Lovely Bones or something like that. One of those. I don't want to misquote without calling up the story.
Okay.
but that miscarriage of justice, concomitantly in Illinois, an Innocence Project group petitioned the governor to reverse the conviction or at least pardon this man that was lynched in 1908 because there was a death of a white man. He was found lying under a tree right after the death. They arrested him. You kill somebody, you go to sleep under a tree, right? Okay, so they arrested him, put him in jail. Mob came, got yanked out. He was lynched, but they supposedly convicted him and that's why the mob lynched him. And they basically said this was a miscarriage of justice. There was no real evidence, circumstantial evidence, but because there's no longer any other evidence to prove his innocence, they just said commute his sentence. That was a racist conviction. The man got lynched for no reason. You need to rectify it for his family. And so the historical arc of these wrongful convictions, these people, Black men, usually brown men, sometimes poor white men, but more often Black and brown, has been notorious in this country. What else is criminal justice? No.
Do you want to talk about that Patterson case?
Yeah, that's great. Jump in, talk about it.
I mean, it was a case where a man apparently having a mental breakdown in Patterson, New Jersey, called the police himself for help. And I don't remember what exactly he said, but the response wasn't a counselor. The response ended up being a SWAT team. And at the end of the showdown, at the end of the back and forth, and it went on for hours, he ended up getting shot and killed. I mean, it just wasn't the way to handle the situation. I don't know why the gun was needed. Wouldn't tear gas have helped? I mean, they said they couldn't use the taser because there was water on the floor. There was enough police in there to rush him, one guy with a knife, and disarm him. So I don't get the gun. But anyway, since then, and for other reasons, the Patterson Police Department has been taken over by the New Jersey Attorney General. They installed a former NYPD person to run the show for the moment. So yeah, it's a history of problems in Patterson, and that case was, I guess, the last straw.
Well, it was egregious that they sent in a SWAT team to begin with. You're obviously, he called them himself, so he must have known that he was disturbed on some level, and he's seeking help. So why send in a SWAT team? SWAT team doesn't go in to negotiate or to work out a situation. They go out to suppress a situation in one way or another. Yeah, I don't understand the logic behind why they sent the SWAT team in to begin with.
That's because policing in the United States of America is occupational force law enforcement, not help and protect, serve and protect. It's especially in Black and brown communities, which basically is the report that Merrick Garland and the Justice Department put in for the Louisville Police Department, which we said on the last show is emblematic of policing across the United States of America when it comes to Black and brown communities. I'm not saying anything that's not known, to the point where the state of California is actually debating reparations for Blacks in the state of California, piggybacking on San Francisco's move to give reparations. And they commissioned a report, and the report talks about this horrific policing in Black and poor communities that has caused such harm in their criminal justice and law enforcement, to the point where they actually say, yeah, you need to come up with reparations. But in the totality of how they have policed and dealt with their Black communities, not just in law enforcement, but in everything, redlining, education, the whole bit, they've come up with a state that they might owe $500 billion in reparations. And they say, don't let the numbers scare you. This is just what we have calculated you actually owe these people for hundreds of years of this kind of treatment. They've actually come out with a documented report. And so, you know, if one state can come up with that factual accuracy, what does that say about the other 50 states in this country? So that was a sidetrack from the criminal justice debate we were having, but that's worth people thinking about. In the pertaining to criminal justice, what about this Alvin Bragg Trumpers sending him white powder and threatening his life in the mail? You guys have something on that story?
I mean, go ahead, Bray.
No. I'm just
it's astounding. I mean, Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan DA, well, technically New York County DA, you know, he's been investigating Trump's alleged payoff to the former porn star to see if there was an elections violation or other federal law in there. And they're almost at the point where the grand jury is going to make a decision. And now we have people threatening the DA's life. He got a letter to that effect with white powder, which turned out to be harmless, whatever it is. It could have been, what's that white powder that used to be used for, you know what I mean? But it if it was
Anthrax. The
anthrax, right.
Yeah.
That, years ago, that was a thing.
Mhm.
And yeah, just the fact that he's being threatened like this for doing his job. And we have Trump putting out social media posts photoshopped to show him with a bat in his hand standing behind Alvin Bragg.
Yeah.
And that's not a post that somebody else put out, that's what he put out. So I mean, former president, that's anyway, let's not dwell on him. We waste a lot of time.
He said in his interview with Sean Hannity that they put that picture up. He never said who they were, but it's on his feed. But they cobbled together that picture. And Hannity didn't say, well, who are they? You follow me?
Yes, yeah, exactly.
So Hannity is complicit, has been complicit, was actually campaigning for him back in the last election, which I think, but that's right, he's not a journalist anyway. So we should not even be thinking about whether the fact he was violating any journalistic integrity laws, because Hannity is not a journalist. He is just a on-air propagandist for the full fake news organization. And I believe they've actually admitted that in their depositions in the Dominion case, right? That our people are just reporting opinion, and people should know it's opinion, something to that effect, correct?
That's what Rupert Murdoch said when they asked him. He said, yeah, these guys have been doing this, that, and the other thing, while Rupert basically covered his own butt in throwing his staff under the bus. So
Dominion and Rupert, Ray, what do you have on the lawyer who's trying to recant her testimony, saying Fox lawyers pressured her?
I forgot her name. She stated that she's recanting her original testimony and saying that she was pressured by Fox attorneys to do so. So, who knows? Here's the problem. If you lied once, how do you know they're not lying the second time?
Look, if it's a Fox on-air person, they are lying.
If they're moving,
Look, whoever came up with that, I'm giving them due credit. All people, we didn't invent it. If their lips are moving, they are lying.
Yeah. I mean, that's just Fox. I mean,
Fox.
Fox was the one who brought in the person who said that, talked about the side doors.
Look, real quick, the side door. Just tell our viewers real quick what the side door was. The common denominator for all these shootings is what? According to Fox? An open side door.
Yeah.
The shooters will come in the open side. So that's what needs to be fixed.
Right. It was a former FBI agent, which I can't believe, said that the side doors were the problem. And did she say they were locked? I mean, I guess she didn't notice the person blowing the windows out.
She said they were unlocked. These unlocked side doors are the common denominator.
That's what she said.
The shooter came in. Well, guess what? The shooter blew her way through the side door that was locked. But if you don't know what you're talking about, you can get up and spew anything you want on Fox fake news, right? They love it when you spew just opinion as fact. But we don't need to stay on Fox and Dominion. There's so many other things going on, and it's too much to carry. We're just going to do a listserv kind of. Folks, keep an eye out for. What else do they need to keep an eye out for?
Did you want to talk about that Ruby Bridges case?
Definitely, we need to do that. That is, I don't know how much time we have, but let's zero in on that right now, because Ray, lead off with the Washington Post article on the Ruby Bridges, and we'll tag the other related stories.
Well, Ruby Bridges was a young girl who I'm sorry?
The
It was a
film.
film. Yeah, well, it was a documentary of Ruby Bridges, who was a young black girl who integrated the New Orleans public schools back in the 60s. Now, this was pulled from, I forget the Florida school district, because a few of the parents were afraid. I think one of the parents, I don't have the direct quote in front of me, said that they feared that this would teach children that white people hated black people. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know what other conclusion one could come to.
At least those white people at that time may have hated Ruby Bridges, and it was being documented.
Anyhow, the film was pulled from the school.
Now,
or investigation. No time limit given on how long it's going to take them to investigate it.
interestingly enough, I don't know if that's the same school or the same school district, but Bob, you had the thing about the David statue and the principal that was fired within the same contextual problems that a school parent.
The principal resigned, was not fired. She resigned because of the pressure that she was under after having this controversy come up. What happened was,
which principal are we talking about? The Ruby Bridges or the?
No. We're talking about the art teacher.
David statue. Explain what the David controversy was.
During an art lesson, she showed the class a picture of Michelangelo's statue of David. Well, the uproar was that, they're showing nude men, etc.
Pornography. The parent called it pornography.
Simply, yes, it was called pornography. So one parent did say this is pornographic. The principal eventually did not resign. I think she had a talk with the school superintendent, and it was decided that she would resign under the pressure. But it's become insane. You can't show artwork anymore in a school. You can't read a book anymore in the school. I forget who the quote comes from, but one of the senators said during one of these investigations that other lawmakers should spend more time reading books than condemning them, and I agree.
Hey,
I mean, how does one get educated without being exposed to these things?
So
that's what liberal education is all about, isn't it?
This is Florida. Florida's crazy.
I don't know what's going on.
This is basically torpedoed the state of Florida, and he's got willing accomplices in any number of things, on book bannings, on prosecutorial, quote, misconduct when people do their jobs in what they feel is a better criminal justice way of approaching crime. But across the country, they're trying to Shanghai any prosecutor that wants to revamp the system that's been totally unfair and unjust and make it more right thinking. But the book banning been picked up all over the country, and the latest one actually happened in state of Utah, and I need to cap that one because a Utah resident wrote the state legislature a thank you note and said, I really want to thank you for your new law banning books, especially all these lewd, lascivious, outrageous books about sex, incest, rape, and all that, which means that you're going to ban the biggest book carrying the most about sodomy, rape, incest, murder, and all that, which you prominently display in your school. It's known as the Bible. So I expect you to ban that book as well. I'm looking forward to it. And the guy who passed the law banning the books said, how dare this man make light of our law, etc., etc. Now he's accusing the man of being whatever, when the man is pointedly saying, follow your law. If that's what you're using as your guideline, ban the Bible, just like you're banning all these other books. I thought that was beautifully done by that resident of the state of Utah to show them how absurd their book banning campaign is.
Yeah, and we have about 3 minutes, but yeah, he basically said that under your own legislation, this is what we could do. So, do something about your legislation. But of course, that idiot didn't, that lawmaker didn't get it.
Nah. So The one other thing I think we should touch on real quick is the follow-up about the Michigan Wayne State professor, because of the flip side of the coin of academic free speech and free speech rights and advocating bad things. I don't know if you got the story handy, Bob, but this professor at college in Michigan, I think it was Wayne College or something. Bob, you'll call it up. But he basically came out and said, sometimes you shouldn't try to shout down racist, homophobic, etc. speakers. It might be better to just kill them. Something to that effect, right, Bob?
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. Yeah, it was a professor at Wayne State, which is in Detroit, said that it is far more admirable to kill a racist, homophobic, or transphobic speaker than it is to shout them down. And he tried different ways to. He said later that he doesn't advocate, breaking federal and state criminal codes, and then he went into some explanation of what he actually meant. But this type of rhetoric doesn't help.
Right, but then he gave the students an example of someone who did just that back in 1923 or 1920, wherever, and he used that example because the jury acquitted the man who did the assassination because they felt he had good grounds, having lost family to some pogrom.
Exactly.
And so he's speaking out of both sides of his mouth. I don't advocate violence, but here's an example of what happens when you do this and can get away with it. I'm saying, look, if it's bad on the left to be calling, on the right to be calling for people to be assassinated, it's just as bad on the left to be calling for people to be assassinated because you don't like what they're saying. It is just horrendous but they suspended him, right?
Right. And we'll see where it goes from here. And we have about 40 seconds left.
Hey, that's about all as much time as we got. So I want to thank you folks for joining us. This has been Media Watch. I'm your co-host, Eric Tait.
I'm Raymond Peterson.
I'm Bob Anthony. Catch up to us on YouTube at Media Watch EVT.
And we'll also post on LinkedIn for those of you who are on LinkedIn. And Dr. Singer hopefully will be back with us on the next iteration of Media Watch. He's traveling right now, but we're looking forward to that. And folks, we thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you the next time. I'm Eric Tait.
I'm Raymond Peterson.
And I'm Bob Anthony.